So I just saw the new horror movie It Lives Inside, which was directed by Bishal Dutta and was his feature debut. The film follows a girl named Sam who rejects her East Indian culture and family to be like everyone else. However, when a mythological demon spirit latches onto her former best friend, she must come to terms with her heritage to defeat it. So what did I think of it? This has been a weird year for horror movies. There's been a lot of horror movies, a lot of them that I really kind of liked that a lot of people didn't. Movies like The Boogeyman and even The Nun, which people just kind of completely shit on, I thought were fine. They were entertaining. And then the horror movies that everybody seemed to love, I didn't. I kind of thought Megan was not good. When it comes to It Lives Inside, I didn't know anything about it going in. This is one that I just kind of saw playing in my movie theater, and I said, fuck it, let's see something different. I knew it was a PG-13 horror movie, and there really hasn't been a great PG-13 horror movie in a long time. One for the young kids to enjoy, and I was hoping maybe this would be a nice, cool twist on things. It also had an Indian culture type twist to it when it came to like whatever the demon was or all this spiritual stuff, so that made the film kind of different. So I went in a little bit interested, and overall, I don't know, man. Like, I don't want to be too harsh on this because it is a directorial debut. It's a young director with a young new cast, and there really isn't, like, you can't expect too much from it. So I'll kind of go through it piece by piece and break down what I liked and what I didn't like. Some things that I did like. The direction here is good. There are some really interesting shots, interesting things done with the camera. The direction is really good. The lighting in some scenes is great. I did love all of that stuff. Also, the acting is really good. The lead here, I think her name is Megan Suri. She is really, really great here. I've never seen her in anything else, and she puts on a great performance, which I also credit with the director here, because you can't get an excellent performance without a solid director directing the cast. But she is excellent. She was really good here. Some of the other people in the cast were really good. Betty Gabriel, who was in things like Let Out and The Purge, she's really, really good here. I also thought some of the scares were good. There honestly aren't a lot of scares in here, which is part of my problem with the movie, but for the ones that there are a couple, there's scenes that really work. There's scenes that are effective, that do have a scare factor to them, even if they're things that I've seen before in other horror movies. That's another problem with it. There just really isn't anything, like, new here. There is a moment with the demon thing where I think that it was practical. I think the actual monster thing in the movie is practical, which I really appreciate if it was. At least it looked practical. If it's not practical, then good on the VFX and the CGI department. They did a great job, because that thing looked practical, and practicality it's always better when it's real. When you actually build it and make it, it's real, and I appreciated when I at least believed that it was real, and maybe it wasn't, I don't know, but good on you, it looked good. I also thought the film had a very effective ending. I thought the final shot of the movie worked really well, the final scene worked good. I thought the whole third act was kind of the best part of the movie. It wasn't great, some parts of it that I'll get into in a second, but I thought the final shots were really, really great, and probably the best part of the movie, to be completely honest with you. Now, what are some cons? Because I do have some things that I just did not love about this movie. First off, the movie is an hour and 40 minutes, but honestly, it felt like 3 hours. The movie's just really slow. It's not paced particularly well. And the reason for that is because the movie is a horror movie, but I feel like it so badly does not want to be a horror movie for a lot of its runtime. With most horror movies, you feel like 80% of the movie is dread. 80% of the movie is weaving in and out of these horror sequences and trying to scare the audience, or at least convince the audience that they are going to be scared, right? That's like the whole point of it. And then you get that other 20% of the runtime, which is the storytelling. You build the characters, you kind of set up the lore of whatever's going on. Here I felt like it was flipped. I felt like it was 80% of trying to build up these characters, trying to build up the lore, and then 20% kind of building on the scares. Whereas I'll compare it to something like Talk to Me, the newest movie, which was also a directorial debut, where I feel like a large portion of that movie was actually dealing with what the horror is, what that hand thing was, and actually experiencing that, and they built the characters through those experiences, and then when you had those little moments early in the film and spread throughout where you were actually explaining stuff and getting some lore, it worked out a little bit better. Here it just felt like so much downtime where there was no scares, there was no like haunting tone behind it, and I just was not getting invested in the characters enough. Maybe that's just me, maybe other people will really enjoy the character work that was done here, so I'm not going to completely criticize it, because it might have just been me, it might have just been not for me. But I just could not get into the characters at all in a lot of parts in this movie. There were a lot of goofy things as well, like there's a moment this guy tries kissing the main character, and like it's just kind of awkward, and then he just backs up and randomly pulls out a joint, and I don't know, it's just kind of weird. I don't know, it might just be me. But because there's just so much downtime, I just got so bored, and then when there were actually these long horror sequences that were really well done, I wasn't as invested as I usually am in horror films. And my motto when it comes to horror films is, honestly, if you're not sure you have a great story and you're not sure you have the best characters, the best script here, just make the damn thing scary. You can get away with a horror movie that has a really, really poor script and just mediocre characters, mediocre, so you can get away with all of that if the movie's just fucking scary, which this movie had the potential to be very scary, because you clearly have a director who's skilled and who understands horror and understands how to utilize the camera to create scary situations. He is really good at that. But there just wasn't enough of it. There wasn't enough opportunity in the script to create scares. And I also felt like the thing that was the scare device, this demon thing, was a little bit too similar to stuff that you've seen in a lot of other movies, especially the boogeyman. There's actually a couple shots in this movie that obviously they weren't copying because they both came out at the same time, but that I feel like I just saw in The Boogeyman a couple months ago. And because of that, a lot of scares that would have felt really, really original and would have felt really cool like 5 months ago felt like something I just saw. The whole thing kind of builds up to this big action-packed third act, and the third act kind of works, but I was just like so over it, and it just did not work well enough for me to get fully invested into that third act, and I just didn't love it, I'm just gonna be honest. But I don't think this movie's terrible. I'm not gonna sit here and rip this movie and give it a 1 out of 5 and tell you not to see it. I think this movie is clearly a director getting his feet wet, clearly a young filmmaker who has so much potential. There is so much potential in this movie. You have actors who are clearly a lot better than the level of Hollywood they're working at. You have so much in this movie that says, wow, there are people involved in this movie who are going to make great things in the future. I just don't know if this was the best thing yet. I don't think the script was strong enough. I thought it was a little bit too long. I thought it probably needed another rewrite on the script just to add more horror and maybe add more depth to some of the characters. I am excited to see what this director does next, because yet again, this movie does have moments where it's like, oh my god, this guy knows what the fuck he's doing. I mean, the camera work is so good, the lighting is great. I'm excited to see what Megan Suri does next, because she was excellent in this film as the lead. But overall, I will give It Lives Inside a 2 out of 5. It's just okay. But yeah, that's the video. Let me know what you guys thought below. Like this video, make sure to subscribe for more. Turn on notifications to see everything as I post it, and I will see you in the next one.